early this morning, I want to get our week started by telling you some things that are really important to me. We call it Fay What's on My Mind. So banning books are on my mind. Can you believe that they banned the book that's called And Tango Makes Three? And Tango Makes Three is a picture book based on a true story of two male penguins at the Central Park Zoo who raised a little chicken together. How could you? Are you serious? You really banned that book? So, we grew up with fairy tales that are so much worse, and I don't think that you folks knew that, all right? But you leave Pinocchio in libraries. When you think back to the 1940s Disney version of Pinocchio, you probably remember the puppet's nose growing to show when he was lying, right? And his cute little pal, Jiminy Cricket, who sings the movie's cute little song, When You Wish Upon a Star, right? Okay, but the movie also taught moral lessons by scaring the shit out of little ones with that nose. It teaches the dangers of running away from home and falling into the clutches of an evil adult. In the original version in 1883, the story by Carlo Collodi is even more disturbing. When Pinocchio is teased about his wooden head by his cricket, Pinocchio gets pissed off and throws a hammer and squishes him dead. Splat. Yep. Do you remember The Little Mermaid? Okay, well, The Little Mermaid, 1989, the tale of a prince named Eric who falls in love with Ariel, the beautiful half-woman sea creature. But the source material, an 1837 story by Danish writer Hans Christian Andersen, is way darker. In the film version, Ariel makes you deal with Ursula, the sea witch, who converts her temporarily into a human in exchange for her singing voice, which the witch puts inside a seashell. In the original, witch silences the Little Mermaid by cutting off her freaking tongue. And unlike the movie, the original story doesn't end happily ever after. Instead, the Little Mermaid loses her prince to a human bride and smiles at him one last time as she and her sisters rise slowly to heaven. Yeah, that's that happy book that you like so much, that happy story that you like so much. How about Little Red Riding Hood? All right, there have been many versions of this story through the ages, all with the same basic storyline, right? A girl in a red cloak is traveling through the woods to deliver food to her sick grandma when she meets with a big, hungry wolf. After the wolf urges her to spend some time picking flowers for her grandma, he races ahead to beat her to the destination. There, he eats the abuela, dresses up in her clothing, and lies in wait for Little Red Riding Hood. In the Grimm's version of the story, Little Red Riding Hood is devoured by the wolf, eaten piece by piece, but she and her grandmother are then rescued by a hunter who arrives just in the nick of time. Instead of shooting the wolf, he cuts his belly open with a pair of shears, and the girl and her grandmother miraculously emerge unhurt. At least there's a happy ending in that one, right? In the original, which he intended as a warning to young women to avoid sexual predators, he simply allows the flirtatious Little Red Riding Hood to be eaten. Yeah. Hansel and Gretel is another one, okay, I'm not even going to talk about Hansel and Gretel. Let's talk about Hannibal Lecter, okay? So Hannibal Lecter, the cannibalistic series killer in Silence of the Lambs, right? This German fairy tale is right up your alley, the Hansel and Gretel. It features a villain who's equally creepy and perhaps even more insidious. A seemingly kindly old woman who lives in the woods in an edible gingerbread and candy house, which she uses to lure the children so that she can kill, cook, and eat them. Yes. Okay, though in fairness, at least she doesn't, boast about dining up their livers with fava beans and a nice Chianti. She just ate them. In the Brothers Grimm 1912 version, she decides that Hansel would be the more succulent child and locks him up in a cage to fatten him up while starving his sister Gretel. Eventually, the witch decides to eat them both anyway, but is outsmarted by Gretel, who, at an opportune moment, pushes the witch into the oven and burns her to death. By comparison, Hannibal Lecter, who at the end of Silence of the Lambs had escaped from prison, gets off pretty easy if you think about it. Yeah. How about Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs? This story is especially notable because it launched the modern trend of sanitized fairy tales. Back in 1938, animator Walt Disney decided to make the Brothers Grimm story, Little Snow White, into his first full-length movie. Naysayers, including his own wife, tried to talk him out of it, warning that adults wouldn't sit through a musical featuring a bunch of bearded dwarfs, but he trusted his gut and borrowed $1.5 million to make it. As it turned out, Disney was right. Depression-era audiences in need of uplifting flocked to see the tale of a beautiful young woman who bests a villainous queen and captures the heart of a gorgeous prince. And the movie became a huge hit. While Disney kept the Brothers Grimm heart-in-a-box angle, he did omit some even grislier details. In their version, for example, Snow White's evil stepmother is invited to Snow White's wedding, where the guests heat a pair of iron shoes on burning coals. She's then forced to step into the burning shoes and dance in agony until she falls down dead. All right, these are just some of the stories that we heard as a kid that are still in libraries today. We know their origin, yet they still stay in libraries. As should And Tango Makes Three. Get that book back in libraries. Those are just some thoughts that I had. Okay, now go back to your beautiful stories from your childhood. You'll never be able to look at them again. I'm just telling you. So, did you enjoy the show? I know you did. So make sure to click subscribe so you won't miss any of the events, news, or interviews right here on the Fay What Show. Ring the bell at the bottom of the screen, right there, so you'll be alerted every time we're live. You can also click on the Happening Out Television Network logo so you can see all of the shows on the most diverse LGBTQ+ media network. Find out just what we're doing to bring the L and the G together right here on the Fay What Show. Get the week started with me.